Hi, this is Billy's twisty trocette bread recipe. And this is how you do it. So what you need is 1.5 tablespoons of instant dry yeast. I use half instant, 4 cups of white flour, type 0 is better. 2 cups of warm water, approximately. 2 tablespoons extra virgin oil, 1 tablespoon of honey, 1.5 tablespoons of salt, or less if you prefer, and 1 egg and sesame seeds. That's what you need now to get started. So actually, this whole process is in 6 steps. The first is preparing the yeast. The next thing, we prepare the dough. Then we knead and rise. We prepare the breads for a second rise. And add sesame seeds. This is the final step before cooking. We add sesame seeds on top of the bread so that we can then put it in the oven and we bake it. That's it. So preparing the yeast, we merge yeast and 1 cup of flour. Mix well. Add a little warm water, not very hot. You don't want the water to be too hot because that kind of kills the yeast. We also then add in the olive oil, 2 tablespoons, and the honey, 1 tablespoon, and we mix well. It's important, it's a good thing to put the oil in first because if you do that, then the honey kind of doesn't stick on the spoon when you do put the honey in, so that's good. Now you cover that and you let it raise for about 5 minutes. You'll see on the next step here, you'll see that when you're preparing the dough, which is the next step, you take a look at the yeast that you prepared. You'll see that it has risen and it's bubbling. So really, you've created a yeast colony here. That's great stuff. So now you want to take that yeast and you want to create your dough. So that's in this next step. So we're going to take in a separate bowl and mix in the rest of the flour. There's 3 cups left to add. We're going to add the salt. You can use the salt as 1.5 tablespoons. You don't want to put too much salt, so be careful not to exaggerate on that. If you want to put a little less, it's probably better. It depends on your taste. But you get used to it after a while. Mix it well. Then pour in the yeast mixture from a large bowl. Clean it out well. You can put a little water in that bowl to clean it out so it can reuse because you can add water. Then mix, adding a little water at a time until you get to a smooth or firm dough. So you're going to mix basically with a spatula. Probably I advise you to wear rubber gloves, some kind of gloves to help you here. You keep mixing in a little water at a time. You don't want it to you got to be careful not to put too much water because if you put too much water, it's going to get too liquidy and then you're kind of screwed. You're going to have to add flour, etc., and you're going to have to work it more. But just a little at a time, add water until you get like a nice firm dough. And it's going to still be a little chunky in the bowl. So the final portion of making it all smooth is pouring it out on the table with some, dusting some flour on it, and then working the dough a little, like kneading it until it becomes a ball. You can get a nice little ball. Then you're done. Now you cover it. Put it in. One thing you can do is you can put it in the oven with the light on. That kind of helps it rise. But you could just put it in a spot covered, and then it's fine too. Now, you don't want it to be any cold spot. That's important. It has to be warm if possible. And then the next thing you do is you're going to take that after a couple hours, 2 to 3 hours. You're going to take that and you're going to knead it. You're going to have to knead it for about 10 to 15 minutes. You get the feel of it after a while. Kneading is different ways to knead it. Not a bad thing to bang it on the table, and sprinkle flour and work at it. Stretch it, work at it, stretch it, work at it. At the end of the day, you want to have a smooth bread, not too liquidy, just smooth, and that's stretchable. So you can test it by making a little window. You take a piece of dough, you stretch it. If it stretches without breaking and you can see through it, that means you're pretty much done. Or you might want to knead some more if it's a little brittle. You might want to have to add, if it's too brittle, you might have to add a little bit of water or even olive oil. You get a hang after a while how it feels. Then, okay, so you cover it and let it raise another couple hours or so. Once you're done with that, you're ready to prepare the breads. So I prepare 200 grams of breads each, forming 2 twisties. two little rolls of bread that I twist together. You normally twist these are have three braids. I use two. Um, I found that the three braids don't make the bread rise as well as if you use only two, and the two braids look pretty nice, even though the three braided one looks prettier. So that's why I do that. So I like to make small breads because I just use it for a meal at a time, so we don't eat more than 200 grams at a time. But that's basically a small portion. If you want to make 400 gram, you can make 400 by using. Um, you can do your calculation. You do two braids or three braids. You can make 200 grams up to 400 grams. That's up to you. So do your calculations, which you should have about 900 grams to a kilo of dough. So based on that, for me, if I get a kilo, I can get 5 little breads. Or if you want to make bigger breads, you could probably get 2 to 3 out of them. Okay? So you just take the little balls, you create the balls of the size you want based on. I use 100 grams. I make two. I roll them out with my hands with a roll, and make little um, things that I can then twist together, braid them together in two. You can do three or whatever you want. And then I put those. I grease a baking sheet or a tray, and I put them in there, and I let them sit for another couple of hours. You'll find that they have after that, you'll find that they rose, and after that, you can now add the sesame seeds on top. And the way you do that is put on the oven because you want to preheat the oven in the meantime that you're doing this. You take the egg and you beat it, then you brush the egg on the breads, and this will allow the bread to become golden brown and it'll allow the sesame seeds to stick. So once you've brushed the egg on the breads, you can pour the sesame seeds onto the breads. Now you're ready to put them in the oven. You place them in the oven, and you just check it out. Put it at a high temperature first. For the first 10-15 minutes, check on the bread. Lower the temperature if you see it's getting dark already. If not, keep it at the same temperature. It's a good idea to shift the bread in the oven so it cooks evenly. Your oven is going to be your oven, and that's why I don't give temperatures or anything. You're going to have to figure out what works with your oven. Checking, that's all different topic. But anyway. Check again after 10 minutes. Make sure the bottom is not burning if you do see that happening, because for whatever reason that could happen. You're probably too close to the bottom, or you can move it up, or you can turn them over to get the even cooking on the other side. Careful if you turn them over because the sesame seeds may come off, so you want to do that very gently. If you did the step about putting the sesame seeds with the eggs on carefully, now you get very little loss. Keep checking every 10 minutes. You can lower the temperature if you want until you get something that's golden brown. The key point is you don't want to undercook it. You may if you want to. So at the beginning, I advise that if you keep it a little extra because you don't want bread to be not completely cooked through it. But for my small breads, it's not an issue. If you do bigger breads, it will you might get the internal side of the bread less cooked. So you have to be careful with that. What I do after the breads are out is I freeze them, and then but I don't use immediately. I'll freeze, and when I need a bread, I pick it out, take it out, thaw it out, and it's nice and crispy, just like fresh. It's great stuff. Thanks. Bye.